I've got the new Yak UMX Yak 180, and I've got it all bound and all the mechanicals adjusted correctly and the CG checked. I've got it bound to my 10 CHP with a module. I've got a few battery packs here I'm going to try. The factory pack, some Hyperion 240s, Babel bats, they're lighter than the factory Hyperion 240s, and a Hyperion 320 Babel bat that you can't buy this one at the stores. You have to get them from RC Babel. Anyway, I'm going to try all of these packs and see how it flies. First, we'll take the factory pack. I've already determined factory CG. The factory recommended CG location is 50 millimeters from the leading edge. I've measured that and tested that out, and it turns out that with the factory pack placed right there on my particular airframe, it balances right at the right spot for the recommended starting CG. However, all these airframes are a little different because the foam density is different, and so you need to check the CG on your plane. It could be different than mine. Control surface check. All of the control horns are in the factory locations. I haven't changed any of that. Everything's a go. Kind of wobbling on its wheels. Maybe they just need to loosen up. Okay. Maiden flight. Needs a lot of down trim. Boy, mine's flying awful tail heavy with a CG set at 50. At least I had to add a ton of down trim. Oh yeah, it's flying tail heavy. Well, while I got it tail heavy a little bit, let's see about how I can hover it. Yeah, I gotta bring it in and move the CG aft. They said 50 millimeters, and I got a caliper I measured mine with, and I can say that that it's flying mighty tail heavy. So, at least on my particular airplane, it appears that the factory CG, oh yeah, is making it fly a little odd. So, I'm going to move the pack I'm going to move the pack up to there and try again. Now, one thing is I do have my trim step set to 1 on my transmitter. Most of them are defaulted to higher numbers than that. So all of that trim isn't as much as you'd think it would be. Oh, it's still flying. Sure flies slow. It's getting closer to the proper CG. Still acting a little bit. Well, it appears to be it's tucking towards the belly in knife, so that means it's a little bit tail heavy yet. But wow, does this thing ever slow down nice? This thing really comes in slow. Okay, well that says my battery is empty. But boy, it's still acting plenty tail heavy. I'm going to try the battery at the front of the Velcro. And considering I didn't do very much serious flying, I'll bring my trim back to level again. And we'll see now what it wants to do. Still taking a lot of elevator trim. I thought I had it centered mechanically. Seems to be about right in that respect. Let's try knife edge pass. Still pulling, tucking to the belly a little bit. Okay, that's enough on that stock pack. Oh, this thing does. It's kind of like a mono-wing beast. It maneuvers and handles more like the micro beast than the Sbach. It's a whole different animal than the Sbach. This thing you can just slow it right down to nothing and turn it on a dime. Well, I've got to take a look at my trim, mechanical trim and all of that stuff and see why it appears to be still flying a little different than I had expected. I'm not sure if there's an incidence problem with my plane. I'm not sure what, but we'll find out this flight. All I know is that with the thing balanced at 50 millimeters aft of the leading edge, it flies extremely tail heavy, and it did require a reasonable amount of down trim, visible down trim. So now we've got a Hype 240 pack. Before I had calculated that the CG was 50 at 50 millimeters with the pack way back here. That's what I had measured at home. Now I'm going to put the 240 pack way up here, because that last flight with the stock 150, I had it up in this area and it was still flying. I had it about midway there and it was still flying, tail heavy. So now with the 240 up close to the front of the Velcro, and the elevator trim back to center, and we're going to try this again and see how it goes. Still flying, tail heavy with that pack there. So I'm going to bring it in and get it to the point where that pack is giving me what should be a non-tail heavy flight. Okay, looks like we're going right up to the front here. And that's as far forward as I can get a pack in this plane. And I still had to add quite a bit of down elevator trim. Yeah, I'm not sure what's up here with the, now it acts pretty neutral. Let's go up and try a inverted flat spin. Wouldn't quite flatten out. Thing's got lots of power though. Even with a Hype 240 up there, which makes it a little heavier than stock, has no trouble accelerating vertically out of hover. Let's go up and see about a upright flat. Looks like I'm running a little nose heavy from that point of view. Oh, it lands nice. Sure comes in a lot nicer than the Sbach. But why am I working with all of that down trim? You can see I've got mechanical down trim in right here. And on this plane, that's enough to make quite a difference. So it's interesting that now the aircraft is acting like it's nose heavy and knife edge, and the fact that it doesn't want to flat so well, but yet it's acting tail heavy with the down elevator trim. But when I fly it like this and fly it upright and inverted, it seems to fly right. So makes me think that maybe the incidence is off just slightly with my plane between the tail and the wing. Well, anyway, there we go. We're going to try a Hype 320 pack next. Okay, here's the Yak again. Well, during flight testing, I have determined that my Yak has an incidence issue. With the elevator trimmed neutral, it pulls out of a dive on its own. And that particular power off dive. And when you do a power off dive test, vertical dive, that eliminates CG and it eliminates thrust line. So this one has a little incidence issue. Well, okay, we're going to try this with a Hyperion 320 custom made pack, and we'll see how this thing flies. Wide open. I'm going to try knife edge. Okay, I'm coming in.
Ready?
I'm going around. Landing gear fell off again. I'm having landing gear troubles. That's the second time they've fallen off, and it was a pretty metal landing. So, not sure quite what's up with that. Well, let's see. My assessment so far is that I've got one that's not quite right with the world. Sure got plenty of power. The motor prop combo is great. Tons of thrust, tons of vertical, tons of power. I mean, it basically flies well. Wasn't so happy with the roll coupling and hard KE, but mine's definitely got an incidence problem, and that's going to force me to fly it with elevator trim all the time. So, but you know, I'll have to tweak and play around a little bit more and get a little more used to it, and then I'll be able to give a better flight review on the plane. So there you go, the Yak 54 180.